Hey, welcome. Joel here with my dad.
And I'm Rick. What's up today, Joel? What do you want to talk about?
What were we going to talk about? I remember what we were going to talk about. All right. So the way we plan these podcasts, by the way, is I think of something during the week and then I write a little note to myself. And so here was a thought I had this week, and I was like, I need to ask Dad about this. How do you know when you've paid your dues? I think we've all been in a job where at some point somebody asks you to do something. You're like, dude, like I did that when I first started here. A friend of mine, he's a pastor, right? And he built this big church. And one day he was talking about how from the pulpit, he was talking about how he's like, you know, I remember the days when I was like plunging the toilet here and, you know, I was everything, the maintenance man. And anyways, the service ended. It just so happened one of the toilets got clogged at the end of the church service. And a lady came up and she's like, hey, pastor, the toilet got clogged or whatever. And she's like, are you going to go get it? And he was like, he did it, right? But I was like, oh, that was kind of a jerky thing for that lady to do. But it made me think about this idea of, do you ever get to a point where you've paid your dues, and yes, you could do that, but it's maybe better for somebody else who needs to pay their dues to be doing that work. What's your take on that?
I commend the pastor for doing that.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He is.
And the thing is that, I don't know if it kind of seems to me if you ever get beyond that to where something's below you, then you've gotten a little bit too high, perhaps. I understand what you're saying as far again, the paying the dues, the only thing I can think of biblically is where Jesus said this. He said, if you're not faithful in that which belongs to another, who's going to give you that which is your own? And I know that came to me a lot of times when I was serving as an associate. I never really had any aspirations to pastor a big church or even pastor for that matter. But I just felt like I needed to be faithful where I was because, again, the Lord said, if I'm going to give you something, I need to know that you're going to be faithful with that which belongs to another. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a great Jesus answer, but
it's what I operated under. I thought I need to be faithful here if God's going to use me anything. Because if I'm not faithful, which is another.
All right, so a church, belongs to another. It's Jesus' church, I guess is what you're saying. The answer just seems a little. The answer seems fluffy to me.
No, what I'm saying
I need
is
some more
this,
teeth.
If you're, for example, if he would have said, "Well, that's beneath me to do that,"
which I mean, he gets put in a bind. How are you going to do that? He just preached about it, right?
But what if he hadn't preached about it and he just saw the toilet was clogged and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go away and just.
Well, and he's the kind of guy that would have done it.
Yeah.
But they literally hire a maintenance person to do that, right? So it's like you got a maintenance person to do it. Or,
so I'm going to leave it sitting there until Monday to where the guy that gets paid to do it can come in and do it, you know?
So now, that's a question. Like
I don't know that I,
because that kind of applies to marriage too, right?
Okay. I'm not making the connection, but,
well, I'll unpack in a second, but go ahead.
Okay.
My thought was, I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of like, we'll leave the dishes there because, you know, my daughter's going to do them tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like a toilet can be left unplunged, but if there's things that need to be done, you know, I mean, Jesus gave the example as the servant, you know, and hey, let me go wash your feet there and I'm going to do this. Did he have to do that? No, he couldn't have done it. He could have left it to somebody who was supposed to do that, you know, but he was demonstrating to them that, look, I'm here to, even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And so, you know, you're in your Sunday suit and you're not going to plunge the toilet maybe when you go out or something like that. But it's a heart attitude, like everything else, it's a heart attitude. But if your heart attitude is, I used to do that, I don't do that now, then I don't know, maybe you need to kind of check your heart a little bit. If there's anything beneath you to do,
that's an interesting.
Check your heart.
It's interesting that you pointed out that was Jesus washed his feet because that was literally at the end of his life. So he could have said, "I've paid my dues at this point."
Yeah, and he did say this. This is really interesting. He said, "You call me Lord and Master, and you should, because that's what I am. But if I, as your Lord and Master, do this, then shouldn't you also serve one another?" And so again, whether that's flushing toilets or whatever. I had a guy one time. He said, you know, a pastor friend of mine, he said, you know, I know so many people who they they're trying to train their interns. They have interns at their church, which is AKA Christianese for free labor.
Free labor.
But they had interns at their church. And he said, I know a lot of these pastors who, okay, as an intern, trying to teach them humility, go out and wash my car, or go out and do this, go out and wax my car, whatever, He said, but really, if we were biblical, I would be out washing their car. But I don't like that so much because I've already learned humility. They need to learn humility now. I've learned humility so much that they need to wash my car. That's how humble I am. Is it making sense? The kingdom is a backwards kingdom. Well, it's forwards. The world is backwards.
It reminds me of one time I spoke at this event and Bob Goff was speaking at the event. And Bob was like, hey, come here, let's do something. And we went out and washed this really famous dude's car in the parking lot. And it made me think of that just now because I was like, well, it's fun. Bob made it fun. But I was like, this is an odd thing to do. Like, it makes us look really weird. But I thought, well, that's an interesting, here's the headline speaker for the event, and he's washing the car of the pastor that is speaking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just made me think of that. But I get it. I get it. And you're right. It is a hard thing. My question is, do you get to a point where, yes, you could go do that, but you're robbing somebody else of an opportunity to grow? And again, that could really be, I'm robbing you of a chance to humble yourself by not cleaning up the toilet there. Yeah.
Again, it is a heart issue. It's almost a heart issue. And you can fool the people around you, but you're not going to fool the Lord. He knows what's going on in your heart. And so if you keep your heart humble and you keep your heart right, I think of with you, this idea of paying your dues. I'm going to keep you down because you haven't paid your dues. What is it you're trying to do? You should keep somebody down. I remember when you started leading the adventure, outdoor adventure things, people were contacting you. So who are you certified through? Have you paid your dues? Who did you get qualified through? And it's kind of a paid the dues things. And you're going, nobody. I'm just doing it. Isn't it kind of the same thing? I mean,
it made me feel really insecure a lot of times. People are like, I'm this certified and that certified and that certified and that certified. I'm like,
you haven't paid your dues like I did, but you were doing it. And so, so a lot of times that paying the dues things is the kind of way to just sort of keep you down. And
which is, what seniority systems are about. So are seniority systems ungodly?
No, not at all. I mean, there's a seniority in the kingdom of God. God the Father, Jesus said, my Father is greater than I.
Right.
So he's there.
So let's talk about that. Cause so I worked at an airline, right? And there were certain things the younger people got stiffed with, like overtime and stuff like that. And the older people were like, well, I already paid my dues. And it was all seniority based. And some of the laziest people got to keep their job.
They paid their dues.
Because they had paid their dues. They literally had paid their dues to the union.
Yeah.
Dues meaning actual money you paid to the dues.
To the union, yeah.
And I always felt like this is an unjust system.
Well, that's because it is not a biblical system. It is negotiated by the unions, and you don't find that in Scripture where you negotiate like that.
So the idea of paying your dues, like I've put in enough time that I shouldn't have to do those kind of jobs anymore.
Yeah, it's a little bit different too.
Yeah, what is the difference there? I'm trying to think through that. What is that?
The difference between being a servant, the willingness to do it. The difference is you're getting paid for one thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And so therefore you're getting paid. You're not volunteering to do anything. So, and you come in on the overtime, and it's a bummer you have to work on Christmas, but they do pay you more.
So let's talk about that, because I've seen a lot of companies where, actually, forget companies. Let's just talk about churches.
We know those better.
Yeah, I know those better. Because it is a little bit different in a church, because there's this weird thing. Yes, you are getting paid to work there, but I see a lot of pastors who probably are doing things they shouldn't be doing, but they're doing it in the name of, this is what the call of a shepherd is. And I go, actually, at this point in where your church life is, what you need to be doing is shepherding others that are going to shepherd others. But they end up spending time, and sometimes they feel more drawn to that kind of people. I'll give a very specific example. I've seen a lot of pastors that maybe came out of addiction or whatever, and they feel drawn to minister to people in addiction. Their church has grown, but they can't now at this point be ministering nonstop to these people in the addiction. And really, I want to tell them is like, look, you need to be working with the people that or you're training up to work with those people because you've already, you don't want to say paid your dues, but really you've put in the time there that now you need to be training others in that. And that's a different thing though. But I think that's good stewardship, right?
Well, it's a different thing because again, that is multiplying, that is making disciples, not just, and if you're going to ever be effective, you have to do more than what just you can do. And so Jesus, he trained the 12 who then were to go out and teach others and train others. And so that's a different thing.
That's really what stewardship is, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it too is this is what feeds me. For instance, the pastor, this is what feeds me. I feel insecure around those people. I really feel secure ministering to these people. And so we limit ourselves by our own self images that we might have. Or it's just the thing I like to do. Me, I love to work with graphics, and I don't know what the deal is.
I saw a thing about that. It described it really well. It said Enneagram 9s love to piddle.
I love to piddle. It's not piddling though. It's producing. So maybe it is piddling.
Yeah, all right.
But I love to do it.
So, okay, so back, it comes down to hard eye. So how would you know, all right, I'm trying to think like, how would I know? Because I've gotten frustrated a couple times where I'm like, okay, here's an example. Total disclosure. I got asked to speak at an event recently, and I said yes to it. The event was so poorly organized. Nobody was there. They'd promoted it poorly. I was like third in line out of like all these speakers, and the people they put in front of me spoke for way too long. So by the time I got up there, just the audience is drained, and I'm like, I can't do these events anymore. They just make me not happy. And I'm like, so I walked away going, is this a heart problem for me? Because I'm like, I just can't do events like this anymore because they crush my soul. And is that me thinking I've paid my dues already? Like I've been to enough soul crushing events, or what is that?
I don't think it's paying your dues or anything like that. It's just a matter of wise use of your time,
Right. So that's where the balance of stewardship comes in. Is like, is it, and again,
look, I get the connection with the stewardship now. Okay, I was trying to figure out how the head do with stewardship, but it's
it's clear as mud in my mind.
Yeah, mine too, mud.
No, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you get it,
no, you're always talking about you have your priorities,
Yeah,
and this took away from my family.
Yeah, and it did, and that was a frustrating thing about it. I'm away from my family a night for this thing that clearly the people that invited me did not do their due diligence.
They didn't put as much effort into it as you did. You came prepared, and they weren't.
Which that sounds cold-blooded, but that's really what it was. Yeah, it's like I came and brought my A game, and I feel like, and maybe they just didn't know what an A game looked like because it was poorly done, but yeah,
or maybe had different priorities or different cultural backgrounds. I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, I understand it. Like I used to have speakers say, I can't come do your outdoor event because of such and such a reason. And now I get it. I'm like, you know what? When you have all these, you got a ton of things pulling on you. And it's not that
you're too good for that.
Yeah.
It's just if I say yes to that, I'm saying no to something else. And that no is something that's more important to me at this point in my life, or maybe in all my life.
Yeah.
This is more important. I could travel around and speak a lot, but God's called me to shepherd this flock, for example, or God's called me to spend time with my family. So it's just a matter of priorities. I don't think it's really even a matter of paying dues.
Yeah.
Because if you go to 50,000 junky, crappy events, that doesn't mean, well, now I get to speak in front of a well put together one. It's not like you've earned anything like that.
That's true.
So it's not paying your dues. It's just a matter of priorities, figuring out what's really worth investing in.
So as with most things, you just got to listen to the Holy Spirit, huh?
That sounds like good advice.
Oh, man.